Elias Everhart hadn't expected to love Nahestia V. He'd taken the colony engineer posting because the pay was good, and the alternative was another, gray winter in Bristol. But somewhere between his first sunrise and his 100th walk through the shimmering forests, something had shifted. This strange alien world had quietly become home. The trees here grew impossibly tall, their leaves cycling through gold, violet, and green as the light moved across the sky. The air smelled of something sweet and unfamiliar. At sunset, the horizon burned deep crimson. A few minutes every evening, Elias would just stop whatever he was doing and watch it. He still missed Earth, but less than he used to. It was one of those evenings, long shift finished, muscles aching, mind finally quiet, that he decided to walk the cliffs above the Gallara River. Everyone at the colony told him not to. The river was dangerous, the current unpredictable, the cliffs unstable. Elias had nodded politely every time and gone anyway. He liked the solitude, he liked the challenge. He did not expect what he found there. He heard it before he saw it. A desperate, echoing roar rising up from the water, followed by thrashing and splashing that made his stomach drop. He ran to the edge and looked down. In the churning center of a powerful whirlpool, something was fighting for its life. It was enormous, twice the size of any predator Elias had ever seen, shaped something like a leopard but longer, more fluid, fur gleaming with an iridescent sheen that shifted between colors as it moved. Its powerful legs clawed at the water. Its long tail whipped frantically against the current, and its eyes, bright glowing green, found his. For one suspended moment, they just looked at each other. Then Elias dropped his pack, kicked off his boots, and jumped. The cold hit him like a wall. The current grabbed him immediately, pulling hard downstream. His limbs began going numb within seconds. He swam anyway, not elegantly, not confidently, just stubbornly, fighting toward the creature as its head began to slip beneath the surface. He reached it just in time. He grabbed its fur, felt the enormous power still coiled in its exhausted body, and pulled. It thrashed. Terrible moment, he thought the whirlpool would take them both. But he held on, wrapped one arm around its neck, and with everything he had left, he kicked toward the bank. It took a long time. When his feet finally touched the muddy bottom, he could barely feel them. They collapsed on the riverbank together, both gasping. Elias lay on his back, staring up at a sky that was turning deep purple. His chest heaved. His ears rang. The creature lay beside him, its massive chest rising and falling, its otherworldly fur soaked and matted against its skin. Alive. They were both alive. After a while, Elias turned his head to look at it. And that's when he noticed the collar. It was buried beneath the thick fur at the creature's neck. Dark metal, etched with glowing symbols that pulsed faintly in the growing dark. He hadn't seen it in the chaos of the rescue. Now it was unmistakable. This isn't a wild animal. His heart rate, which had barely started to come down, spiked again. Someone owned this creature. Or at the very least, something intelligent had put that collar there. Which meant there was more going on here than a chance encounter by a dangerous river. He reached toward the collar, curious. The creature growled, low, quiet, and absolutely clear in its meaning. Elias pulled his hand back. "Okay," he said softly. "Okay, I get it." He needed to get back to the colony. His comm link was with his pack up by the cliff's edge. The colony itself was 5 kilometers through dense forest, and night had fully arrived, bringing with it the sounds of things that hunted in the dark. He stood, slung his recovered pack over his shoulders, and looked at the creature. It had risen to its feet while he wasn't watching. It stood 6 feet at the shoulder, watching him with those luminous green eyes, perfectly still. "I'm going that way," Elias said, pointing toward the trees. "You can come if you want." He turned and started walking. After a moment, he heard the soft, nearly silent fall of massive paws behind him. They walked together for almost an hour. Every time something in the darkness got too close, some unseen predator drawn by sound or smell, the creature would let out a low rumble, and the noise would stop. The forest seemed to part around them. Elias wasn't sure if it was because of the creature's presence or something about the collar, which continued to pulse and occasionally flare brighter, as though reacting to things he couldn't perceive. He was exhausted, cold, still half-soaked. His muscles ached from the swim. He was also, strangely, not afraid. He thought about that as they walked. Fear was usually his body's way of telling him something useful, back off, slow down, think again. But right now, moving through a dark alien forest beside a creature that could probably snap him in half without effort, he felt something closer to calm, almost like the creature's steady presence was transferring itself to him somehow. Don't overthink it, he told himself. You jumped off a cliff an hour ago. Your judgment is clearly not your strongest quality tonight. He almost smiled at that. The creature stopped. Ears up, body tense, scanning the darkness ahead with complete focus. Elias squinted through the trees and saw it, a structure, hidden behind vines and decades of overgrowth, but unmistakably artificial. Metallic, angular, completely out of place in the wilderness. The creature moved toward it. Elias followed. Up close, the building was clearly ancient, covered in moss, half swallowed by roots, its walls adorned with the same symbols as the collar. At the front was a large circular door, sealed shut. He ran his fingers along the edge of the door frame. The metal was cold and perfectly smooth beneath the moss. Whatever alloy this was, it hadn't corroded, hadn't weakened. Whatever civilization had built this knew how to make things last. Creature stepped forward and pressed its head against the metal. The collar blazed with light. The door hissed open. Inside, a dim blue glow lit the walls. The air was still and strangely clean, and in the center of the room, surrounded by technology Elias couldn't begin to understand, was a stasis pod. He walked toward it slowly. The machinery surrounding it was unlike anything in the colony's equipment catalogs. Some of it looked biological. Soft curves and organic shapes integrated with hard metal edges, as though the technology had grown rather than been built. Thin filaments of light ran along the floor like veins, all converging on the pod at the center, and inside, sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that centuries may have passed, was a child. Alien child, 5 or 6 years old, pale lavender skin, delicate features, small hands folded gently at its sides, chest rising and falling with slow, even breaths. Elias stood there for a long moment, unable to speak. This was what the creature had been guarding. Treasure, not a weapon. Not some ancient relic of a dead civilization, a child. When he touched the pod, symbols flared, and the lid began to open. He stepped back. The creature moved closer, its posture softening completely, a low rumbling purr replacing its usual watchful silence. The child's eyes opened, large, luminous, deeply confused. They moved from Elias to the creature and back again. No screaming, no panic, just quiet. Careful observation, the look of someone trying very hard to understand something new. Elias crouched down slowly. "Hey," he said, "it's okay. Safe." The child looked at him for a long moment, then spoke, soft, melodic alien. He didn't understand a word, but the child seemed to realize this quickly. It tilted its head, touched its own throat, and tried again. This time the words came out halting and imperfect, like something half-remembered from a long time ago. "Home. Gone." Elias's chest tightened. He didn't know the answer. For all he knew, this child's home had been gone for centuries. But he looked at those wide, frightened eyes and made the only promise he actually could keep. "I don't know," he said quietly. "But I'll help you, I promise." The child's name was Rilke. The creature's name, she said simply, with complete certainty, was Guardian. It made sense. The bond between them wasn't the bond between a pet and its owner. It was something older than that. Something that had survived whatever disaster had placed a child in a stasis pod, in a forgotten building on a distant planet, with only one protector to watch over her through the years. Elias watched them together, Rilke's hand resting in Guardian's fur, creature's eyes soft in a way they hadn't been all night, and felt the full weight of what he'd stumbled into. Then Rilke looked up at him again. Her large eyes clearer now, more focused. She pointed at his chest. "You," she said carefully. "Name's Elias." She tried it. Elias. A pause. "You saved Guardian," he blinked. "You know about that?" She touched the collar gently. "I see, always, even sleeping. I see through Guardian's eyes." That hit him somewhere quiet and deep. She had watched him jump off that cliff. Had watched the rescue through the creature's consciousness, while locked inside this pod, somewhere between sleep and awareness. "Were you scared?" he asked. She considered the question seriously, the way children do when they decide an adult deserves an honest answer. "Yes," she said.
"Then you held on."
Then the ground shook. The symbols on the walls began flickering rapidly. The hum of the machinery shifted, becoming urgent, almost frantic. Guardian was on its feet instantly, growling. Rilke's eyes went wide, not with confusion this time but with a fear that looked old. Tist. Like she had known this moment might come even in her sleep. "We need to go," Elias said. "Now." They burst out of the building into the night air, and above the trees, silent, massive, and terrifying, were ships. Several of them, sleek and angular, their metallic hulls catching the moonlight as they hovered, their searchlights cutting down through the forest canopy in slow, deliberate sweeps. Rilke grabbed Elias's arm. Her voice was barely a whisper. "They found me. The Kavar," she told him in fragments, voice shaking, her eyes never leaving the ships. They were the ones who had destroyed her people. Her parents had hidden her here, placed her in stasis, hoping that one day the danger would pass, that one day it would be safe to wake up. It hadn't been. The stasis pod's activation had sent a signal, and the Kavari had been watching, waiting, patient in the way that only truly dangerous things are patient. "What do they want with you?" Elias asked, pulling her behind a moss-covered wall as a searchlight swept past. Rilke hesitated. Her small hands tightened in Guardian's fur. "My people," she said slowly, "had something. A knowledge. Old knowledge. About how the universe was built, how to move through it, how to unmake certain things. Weapons, not exactly." She struggled for the words. "More like keys. My parents were the last keepers of this knowledge. They gave it to me. Here." She pressed a hand to her chest. "Before they put me to sleep." Elias stared at her. A 5-year-old child carrying the last surviving knowledge of a dead civilization, hidden in a stasis pod on a forgotten planet, guarded by a creature that had waited, alone, for someone trustworthy enough to find her. "How long have you been in there?" he asked quietly. She looked at him with those ancient, luminous eyes. "I don't know," she said. "Guardian does. But Guardian won't tell me." One of the ships descended into a nearby clearing. Trees cracked, steam hissed, and then the ramp lowered. Soldiers, tall, dark-armored, their glowing red eyes scanning the forest with practiced precision. They moved with the quiet efficiency of people who had done this before, who had hunted before and found what they were looking for. The lead soldier stepped forward and spoke, heavily accented but clear. "Where is the child?" Guardian had already moved. Before Elias could react, the creature had scooped Rilke gently by the collar of her clothing and leaped into the trees, disappearing into the darkness with barely a sound. Elias was left alone. He stood his ground. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. I was hiking." The soldier's red eyes narrowed. "The signal from the stasis pod was detected. The child has been awakened. She is the key to what we seek. Then you know more than I do." The soldier raised its weapon. "Then you will die with her secrets." The blur came from the left. Guardian hit the soldier like a freight train, all muscle and fury, its jaws finding the armored arm and crushing down. The impact sent the soldier crashing to the ground. Before the others could respond, Guardian was already moving. A shadow that seemed to be in 3 places at once, tearing through the squad with a speed and precision that felt almost impossible. Elias ran. Through the trees, toward the sound of Rilke's quiet breathing, toward the small lavender-skinned child crouched in the undergrowth, eyes enormous with terror. She grabbed his hand the moment she saw him. "They won't stop," she said. "They never stop." Behind them, Guardian's snarl echoed through the night, followed by the crack and flash of energy weapons. They ran hard through the dark. Elias kept Rilke's hand in his, pulling her over roots and around fallen branches, his heart hammering, his mind working through the problem, the way he worked through every engineering problem. Strip it down, find the variables, find the solution. Variables: 1 human, no weapons. 1 alien child carrying priceless knowledge. 1 alien Leopard currently fighting an unknown number of armored soldiers. Several warships in the air. 5 kilometers to the colony. Solution: not obvious. "Rilke," he said between breaths. "The colony, my people. Can we get there? Can we hide you there?" She shook her head, not slowing. "They'll scan it. They'll find me anywhere that's static. Anywhere I stay. So we keep moving." She faltered, pulled him to a stop behind a wide trunk. Her breathing was ragged, but her eyes were sharp. "We give them something else to look for." "What do you mean?" She pressed her free hand against the tree. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the bark began to glow faintly. The same symbols from the collar, from the building walls, spreading outward from her palm like ink in water. Elias stared. I told you, she said quietly. They gave me the knowledge, all of it. She lifted her hand. The symbols faded. I can make a signal. False one. Strong enough to pull their ships to the other side of the planet. You can do that? Once. Expression was serious in a way no child's face should be. It will take everything I have. After, I won't be able to do it again for a long time. How long? Years, he looked at her. At this child standing in a dark alien forest, offering to spend years of her recovering strength to buy them a few hours of safety. Is it safe for you? She almost smiled. It was a small, tired thing. Safer than the other option. He couldn't argue with that. Okay, he said. Tell me what you need. What Rilke needed was simple. Silence. Stillness and Guardian. The creature returned from the forest 5 minutes later, moving low and fast. A dark shape that resolved itself into familiar iridescent fur and those glowing green eyes. 3 of the soldiers wouldn't be following anyone. The others had retreated to the ship, regrouping, Elias guessed. It wouldn't last long. Rilke knelt in the center of a small clearing, hands flat against the earth. Guardian lay beside her, its great head resting near her knee, the collar symbols blazing steadily now. Not flickering, not reacting, just burning with a constant, deep light. Elias stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the sky. The ships were still up there, moving slowly, converging. Rilke, whatever you're going to do. I know, he said. Her voice was strange, lower, older sounding. Something enormous was speaking through her small frame. Be quiet now, Elias. He was quiet. The ground began to hum, not mechanically, organically, like a sound rising up from somewhere impossibly deep, as though the planet itself was resonating. The symbols from Rilke's hands spread across the clearing floor, covering every root and stone, climbing the surrounding trees, filling the air with a soft light that had no single source. Above them, the ship's searchlights swung sharply, and then, one by one, they turned, away from the forest, away from the clearing, moving fast now, accelerating toward the horizon, toward whatever false signal Rilke had planted somewhere on the other side of Hestia V. Within 2 minutes, the sky was empty. Rilke slumped. Elias caught her before she hit the ground. She was breathing, steady, even, but her eyes were closed and the color had drained from her lavender skin, leaving it pale and almost translucent. Guardian pressed close, its purr a constant, careful vibration. Hey, Elias said softly. Stay with me. Her eyes opened halfway. Told you, she murmured once. You did good, he said. You did really good. She made a small sound that might have been a laugh and let her eyes close again. He held her carefully, like she weighed nothing, because she almost did, and looked at Guardian over her head. The creature looked back at him steadily. We need to get her somewhere safe, Elias said. Warm, food, rest. Guardian stood, turned toward the forest, and waited. Right, Elias said. Lead the way. The emergency outpost was 3 kilometers east, a small unmanned shelter the colony maintained for workers who got caught out in bad weather. Elias had restocked it himself 2 months ago. He knew exactly what was in it: emergency rations, a heating unit, 2 cots, a basic med kit, and a comm link with a stronger signal than his personal one. Guardian couldn't fit through the door. The creature seemed to know this. It settled just outside, its back against the wall, and closed its eyes. Elias set Rilke on one of the cots, wrapped her in a thermal blanket, and sat on the floor, with his back against the wall, his own exhaustion finally catching up to him all at once. He didn't sleep. Not really. He dozed in that shallow way that doesn't feel like rest, waking every 20 minutes to check Rilke's breathing, to glance at the window, to listen for the sound of ships returning. None came. By the time pale gold light began filtering through the outpost's small window, Rilke's color had returned. She woke quietly, no crying, no disorientation, just opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling for a moment before, turning her head toward Elias. You stayed, she said. Where else would I go? She sat up slowly, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. Could have gone to your colony. Told them nothing. Been safe. Probably, he agreed. Why didn't you? He thought about that honestly. Why hadn't he? He wasn't military. Trained for this. He was an engineer who fixed power systems and took unauthorized walks along dangerous cliffs. I jumped into a river last night for a leopard I'd never met before, he said finally. I think my decision-making is just like that. I looked at him with those ancient eyes. Then, for the first time since waking, she smiled. A real one. wide and sudden and completely a child's smile. Guardian likes you, she said. Guardian doesn't like anyone. High bar, Elias said, very high. She agreed seriously. After breakfast, emergency rations, which Rilke ate with the focused appreciation of someone who hadn't tasted anything in centuries. They sat in the doorway of the outpost and watched the alien sunrise. The sky went through its colors. Rose, then amber, then the familiar lavender of a HFY morning. Guardian lay across the threshold, half inside and half out, apparently having reconsidered the door situation. The Kavari will come back, Rilke said. It wasn't a question. Probably, Elias agreed. False signal buys us time. Not forever, I know. She pulled her knees to her chest. I've been thinking. Yeah? My parents hid me so the knowledge would survive. But hiding, it only works for so long. She looked at him sideways. The Kavari are powerful because they take. They take knowledge and they use it, and no one else can touch it. That's how they've stayed powerful for so long. So what's the alternative? Share it, she said simply. My people kept the knowledge secret because they were afraid. But if the knowledge belongs to everyone, if it's everywhere, then the Kavari can't take it, can't control it. Elias was quiet for a moment. That's either the smartest thing I've ever heard or the most dangerous. Both, she said. My mother said the same thing. He looked at her. Your mother sounds like she was remarkable. Rilke's expression shifted, something complex moving through it, grief and pride tangled together. She was, she said quietly. She told me once that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's deciding that something else matters more. Smart woman, the smartest. A pause. She'd have liked you. Elias looked out at the horizon, at the alien landscape that had somehow, in the space of one very long night, become something different. Not just a posting, not just a home, but a stage for something larger than he'd ever expected to be part of. So, he said. What do we do? Rilke stood, straightened her borrowed thermal blanket like a cape, looked at him with the steady, certain gaze of someone who had been preparing for this moment for a very long time. We go to your colony, she said. We tell the truth. We find people who can be trusted. And then, she glanced at Guardian, who had opened one brilliant green eye. We stop hiding. Guardian stood. Elias stood. All right, he said. Let's go cause some problems. Rilke smiled again, that sudden, bright, completely childlike smile. And the three of them walked toward the colony, into the gold morning light, carrying between them the weight of a dead civilization's last gift and the fragile, stubborn beginning of something new.